All right, there you are.
There's all your logos. All right.
You're all set.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm Ed Carney. I'm president of Apple Valley Chamber of Commerce the last 20 years. And thank you for joining our webinar series, Real-Time Solutions. This is brought to you by the chambers of Apple Valley, Burnsville, Lakeville, Inver Grove Heights, and Hastings, and River Heights. And the goal is to address our business concerns and questions as we all navigate through this COVID crisis. And today we have participants that are really good at navigating that crisis. That's why we have them on. But a little bit of housekeeping first. All participants are muted. You can ask a question at the Q&A at the top of your screen there, and we'll be monitoring that for at the end. We will take questions. And also this webinar is being recorded. It's going to be available on all of our partner chambers that I just mentioned, on our websites, our social media, in our weekly e-news and that. So with that, I'd like to introduce, first of all, Nicole Sindelar on your screen there, one of our distinguished guests today, and she's the owner of Hastings Golf Club. Also, we have Ryan McGonigal, and he's the owner of Las Tortillas. And we have Mark Reese, owner of two different B52 restaurants, two B52 Burgers and Brews. And I think that you have Jason with you. Is that right, Mark?
Right.
Jason, how are you? First of all of you have survived. Some of you have even thrived. Why? Because you've learned to adapt to circumstances. And that's what today is all about. It's really interesting that all the restrictions tend to be on restaurants, but there's only about 2% of the COVID that starts at a bar or a restaurant when they go back and trace it. So it's a little bit heavy-handed in against what you do, yet you guys have survived and thrived. Why don't we take a minute and start with Nicole. Nicole, would you just take about 1 minute and just talk about your restaurant? That's all.
Sure. Yep. I'm Nicole Sindelar, and my restaurant is Hastings Public House in Hastings, and we also have Hastings Golf Club and Event Center. So we've got a lot going on. We are in the middle of Hastings, and we're actually just right now, we're 1.5 years old. So we're pretty new on the scene as far as a restaurant and company goes. So what an interesting first 1.5 years we've had.
Good timing.
Yes, right? Exactly. Yeah, let's keep us on our toes for sure. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Go ahead. Thank you. Ryan, would you just take a minute and just talk about your restaurant?
Yep, I'm Ryan McGonigal. I own Las Tortillas Mexican restaurant in Rosemont with my wife, Jen. We're owner-operators. We've been here 9 years. This May will be our 10-year anniversary. We got about 80 seats. No outside dining until COVID came. We do a lot of off-premise catering throughout Dakota County, as well as our in-house dining.
Well, thank you. Also, before we got on, you had mentioned about you being Irish in a Mexican restaurant. Could you say a little word about that?
I'm the Scottish guy who owns a Mexican restaurant in an Irish town. Figured it out. I don't know.
See, that's creativity. Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about both B52s?
So my business partners and I started up B52 in Inver Grove Heights in 2011. And then in 2019, we expanded to downtown Lakeville. And yeah, it's been a wild ride, and we've had a lot of ups and downs, and then we had this year happen. So we've really had to adapt, like you said.
Well, thank you very much. Nicole, let's get back to you. And I'd like to have you take about 5 minutes and tell us about when the COVID first came. Obviously, everybody closed down temporarily, and your reaction, but your fears, and just tell us what it was like, and then move forward a little bit. And what were you doing to get through it all? And then obviously you've got here to the fall, and now we're about to enter possibly a second wave. At least with the winter, we have to deal with that no matter what the virus does, as everything moves inside. And tell us over the next 5 minutes, kind of what your plan is. And I'm sure there's some creative ideas that you guys have thought of because you already have thought of those ideas in order to get this far. Go ahead, Nicole.
Sure, thank you. I remember I was having a manager meeting and the TV was on, and then we got the word that we had to shut down. And honestly, one of the scariest times in my life, because I'm not as much worried about me, it's all my staff. I've, 6 full-time salary people, plus, at the height of the season, I have 75 staff. And it's like, how am I going to pay these people? My heart just sunk and I was in shock for a full day for sure. And then it's like, okay, what are we going to do? And immediately we had so many of our patrons and guests reaching out to us right away, saying, I'm so sorry. We were getting texts, people were calling. And right there, it's like, I knew we were going to make it. We just have so much support and we just got to be able to pivot and figure this thing out. I think some things that were super helpful, we did get a PPP loan. That was a huge breath of fresh air. Once that happened, I knew everything was going to be okay. But also, we got through the city of Hastings and the chamber, we got a HEART grant, which helped us purchase things to get ready to reopen. And the chamber played a huge part in me getting through this because it connected all the restaurants in town. We did some Zoom meetings, sharing our fears, our ideas, and that, none of us were in this alone. So that was super helpful as well. Things we did right away, like I said, we knew we had to change things. So we literally did maybe 1% to go orders and then changed to 100%. So we started coming up with features. We did an Easter to go. We served like 780 people on Easter that all came, picked up their to go. We put it in their car. I dressed up like the Easter bunny. I mean, just people really wanted to still have connection with other humans. And it's crazy how you didn't realize how much you loved restaurants until they weren't there. And all those people are reaching out and supporting us.
They still are.
Yes. Oh gosh, absolutely. We also partnered with Spiral Brewery in town to do, help them do sales as well. Like I said, the restaurants in Hastings really pulled together. So we were trying to do whatever we could. And then when we got the word that only patio can open, and I think all of us were shocked, we were thinking it would go a different way. So real quick, we came up with some things to make our patio better. We came up with shade sails. We made an ivy wall. We added extra lighting, we brought in heaters, and now our patio is packed all the time. So, I mean, it's been good. And then going into winter, it is a little scary because I don't know how the public's going to feel about it. I mean, obviously they feel better about eating on a patio, but when you're bringing it inside, we'll see what happens. But we are actually enclosing part of our patio, and I have an electrician coming this week to do permanent heaters. So there's going to be a portion that people are going to be able to eat outside all winter. And then I'm really lucky because we have an event center in the middle of our establishment that I'm not a fan of making it a restaurant area. It's great for events, but not for a cozy date with your spouse. But we got some basically fabric to drape in there and do separate lighting to make it feel cozy and somewhere you'd actually want to go have a meal in the winter to try to expand our space a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Are there any plans for like fire pits or anything like that outside in the winter? Or?
Yeah, we already have one.
Okay.
So obviously we're not going to enclose it, but yeah, we're thinking about, we'll just keep shoveling the snow around it so people can go hang outside there. And then I'm toying with the idea of an ice bar as well.
I've been to those at hotels in downtown Minneapolis. Those are fun.
Yeah, right.
Anything else, any tips you can offer that you're talking to other restaurants a lot here too and all the participants, and what advice would you give them going into winter? You just mentioned a few, but
yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing that is make or break for everybody is attitude.
Excellent.
if you're going to look at this as just the worst thing ever, you're not going to make it. It's okay. I mean, we've been throwing stuff before. If you're in the restaurant industry, you know, every day is different. You're going to, it's not what's, or if something's going to go wrong, it's what's going to go wrong and how are you going to fix it. So good attitude and just thinking outside the box and chatting with your customers, seeing, you know, their feedback, seeing what they're willing to do, what they would love to see. But yeah, just being positive about it. There are some good things that have come out of this too.
Well, thank you. Those are a great story right there. Ryan, why don't we go to you next? Ryan with Los Tortillas, why don't you tell us a similar story?
Yeah, I have a similar story to that. It was devastating, to say the least. Just not knowing, you know, as Nicole said, with staff and taking care of people. The initial impact for us, we did about, you know, maybe 20% of our total gross was to-go ordering. We kind of pride ourselves on having a fun environment. We're a small space, you know, only about 2,000 square feet of restaurant. So there's not much space to move around. And but with the initial impact, we took care of the staff first and really had a discussion as a crew, you know, how are we going to handle this? What is our comfort level? And then we were forced to do just to go only, which was a blessing in disguise because it really allowed us to use our space as safely and efficiently as we could. We just turned into, you know, just a takeout central in regards to the bar top became the pickup window for our staff. We added 2-3 staff members just to handle bagging food. We were lucky enough, we had online ordering was something that we already had in place through our partnership with US Food Service. We got a new website probably about a year ago, and then we had good success with that. And so then they had another partnership with a bento box. And so bento box and Chow Now got together, and online ordering for us, it just as fast as we could take the orders and pick up the phone, we could, you know, stay profitable and at least enough for the staff to get paid and the bills to get paid, which at that time was, you know, pretty priceless. So the initial impact was tough. We lost all of our catering, obviously. June is our busiest month of the year, not because of in-house dining or to-goes, but because of off-premise catering. You know, Mexican cuisine lends itself great to graduation parties, you know, outdoor weddings, you know, things of that nature. So the biggest hit, the biggest impact that was the scariest for us was, you know, losing about 25% revenue right off the top, just, and if and when it was going to come back. Each week it was maybe next month, and then it was 2 months, and then it's, you know, not till the spring. So we just embraced what we had, and what we had, you know, was great community support. We had, you know, staff that was willing to change everything they do, change the shifts they work, change the nights they work. The afternoon staff turned into evening staff because we reduced our hours. That was one of our ways to handle the burden of payroll and to really eliminate those slow hours in the suburbs in the middle of the week that we've had for years and years, but we didn't want to take away because, you know, the community's looking for that. They're looking for somewhere on a Monday afternoon or a Tuesday afternoon. But we really put our business first, made decisions based on our profitability, because if we can't be around, we're no good to anybody. So we really took care of ourselves first, and then the community embraced that and completely understood as far as reducing our hours. We've added them back, not all of them, and we're not going to go to full scale. We're right now about 35% down in hours a week. So 35% of payroll, 35% of occupancy cost. That all trickles down to the bottom line and make sure that, you know, we're here for years to come. So that was our biggest challenge, and to figure out is what we wanted to do as a crew. And we really embraced it to go. we called it like our own little hospital. The place couldn't have been any cleaner and more sanitary. We had great systems set up. We handled, the mask issuing. We went mandatory masks for all staff inside the building from the time they walked in to the time they left, about 6 weeks before it was state mandated. And we found that we couldn't social distance. The reality of being in a restaurant, you're on top of each other. You can't put out 100 meals in a 4-hour period without being right next to each other. It's just, and we didn't want to be hypocritical. So we said, well, the best we could do with avoiding, not being within social distance is masking. And that, in hindsight, worked out for us. I wore mine all day long. Nobody came in before me. Nobody worked after me. So they saw the bosses wearing his mask. So they wore theirs. And, the cooks got through it. We all got through it. Everyone had their own style. So that worked out great. And it created a safe work environment, which I think was one of our successes to getting through this summer, was that everyone was held to the same standard. The chamber put out an early email with a connection to buying thermometers or digital thermometers. So we jumped on that right away. So we started doing temperature logs back in, it was right around Cinco de Mayo, so early May. So we just felt like we've always been kind of lucky enough to be one step ahead when it came to creating that work environment. And as Nicole said, the staff felt taken care of and safe. And that allowed us to change the rules on, this is how we're doing service from here. This table is going here for this reason. And no, you can't take an order at the door. Yes, you're going to have to tell them to go back to the car and call in, and it really enabled the staff to take ownership of this situation. And, it worked out really well for us.
What are you looking at for the winter now that in slow motion, we're going into the cold a little bit?
Yeah, well, we have a little outdoor patio that we created. I was reluctant to do that because our to-go business was doing so well for us, that those in the community that really would come to the door and say, I love the way you have this set up. I feel very safe. It kept all of our staff inside. Then with the dining restriction of 50%, we're like, we can only do 40 people. And even at that, maybe 15 people would come inside. So we embraced the patio. It's worked out really well for us to the point where we're pushing now with the city of Rosemont. They work hand in hand with us very well to putting a deck on the south side of our building for about the same size, about a dozen tables. So for the winter, Ed, to answer your question, the front patio is going to go away. We're not going to do the tent and the heater deal. What we're really going to do is really rely on that community support with to-go food. Hopefully some small group catering will come back. We've been doing a little of that more in the last 6 weeks with individual packaged catering opposed to like the self-serve taco bar. So we're hoping for that for this winter. But we have a pretty streamlined machine here when it comes to to-go food, and we've really been a part of the community. When we were shut down for all those months, we had scaffolding in here for a month and a half, and I was on top of it. And we cleaned the restaurant and remodeled it and made it a cleaner, safer, more comfortable environment. We did the kids' meals. So we were shut down for lunch, so we turned the place into a food factory. And that got us through a really, dark time of not being open, as far as just relying on 4 nights of dinner service for to-go. And that really allowed the community to be a part of our family and what we're doing. And it was kind of the heartbeat that got us through each day. I would say for any business owner, dealing with going back to work more, bringing back more staff, or getting back into your actual work environment, to be there daily and to change daily, to set the expectations high as far as what your standards are when it comes to running your business and the safety of your business. customers don't always tell you how they feel when they're sitting in your space, but if they come back the following week, you know that you're doing something right. So here with the standards of service with staff and the mask staying on and temperature checks and talking to, not breaking the rules in front of customers or letting customers break our rules and showing some accountability from a consumer end of it, because they'll continue to challenge any business and any business guidelines.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan. Let's go on. Did Mark leave or step out? Is it Jason?
Yes, yeah. I'm Jason Saji. I'm the GM at the Lakeville location. Mark had something come up suddenly. Sorry, so
Okay.
he had to step out, but he should be back in a second.
All
But
right.
yeah, I mean, I remember we were it was leading up to St. Patrick's Day weekend, and everybody was like, "Wait, what are we going to do here? Are we actually going to have St. Patrick's Day type festivities?" Our Amber Grove Heights location has been open for 10 years. We used to run a bus out of there down to downtown St. Paul. And, the reality of that rush of what are we going to do came really quickly. And we were having conversations about that. We closed down the day before the state mandate closed down, and just pushed forward with to-go business as much as possible, the takeout and carry out. We've got partnered with DoorDash and Chow Now as far as delivery services. And then we do have an online, the Aloha Takeout is our online platform for ordering food via our website. And those things really held us, but it was a lot of things where you have to adjust and get creative. Simple things like our kitchen window wasn't huge. So when we originally used to have a hinged box, and we went from a hinged box to a separate two-piece boxing system because our window couldn't fit all of the hinged boxes very well to try to put together orders as they came through. Also just looking at the bottom line of how expensive to-go products were to be doing the ketchup and mustard packets and silverware and things like that. We moved all of those utensils up to the host stand in storage bins, and then we asked customers as they came in if they actually wanted that, because a lot of people were just eating at home anyway. So we didn't necessarily feel the need to be doing all of those extra costs. And we got a really great management team. We've got a team of 3 at each store. And we were on weekly, if not daily, Zoom calls talking about how to be creative. I kind of took the lead on our online presence stuff, and we made like a variety TV show that we would do every Saturday night, which was really fun. And we were interviewing random guests, former Vikings players and things like that, just trying to stay relevant with our customers that we missed, because we weren't just sitting there being able to talk with them and socialize with them. And then we did an online bingo that was very successful, that we would email out cards and had a Zoom meetings for those, doing an online trivia as we did some Star Wars things and other themed trivias online, and just tried to stay relevant with the customers. And then like in our Amber Grove Heights, same as Ryan was saying, we did a remodel. We had carpeting in the Amber Grove Heights location. So it started with the idea of how are we going to tear out the carpet to make sure more of a clean, easier to clean, sanitary floor material. And then it went from there to completely almost gutting and remodeling the entire store. So
Are those tough decisions when there's no income coming in, but you have to completely redo and purchase a ton of stuff and
I'm going to let Mark talk more, because that was his choice.
With that decision, we were already in the plans of doing the remodel there, and so we figured we were just banking on the fact of, all right, hopefully everything's going to get back to normal within a decent time. So it ended up being a little scarier as things have kind of gone on. but we already had those plans in place, and we figured, all right, if we're already shut down, what better time to shut down while you're already losing revenue, or where we don't have to shut down. We're already being told we have to be shut down. So that's why, you know, in the end, we decided, all right, we're going to go full steam ahead. So at the end of the day, we are all very happy that we did it, though, because it needed it.
Well, thank you very much. These are fantastic stories. I think we're going to jump right into some Q&A. We have quite a few. And let me just start with the first one. And whoever wants to answer this first. I won't say which city, but this is actually from a city council person in one of the cities. How much did the Apple Valley, Hastings, Lakeville, and Egan, and Inver Grove Heights councils allocate from their CARES Act funding to their small business grants to help your restaurant business survive their pandemic? So did you get a lot of city help is what they're asking in your respective cities?
Yeah, I can start with that. So here in Rosemont, they provided what Rosemont CARES Act. And so with that, it was up to a $10,000 grant, which was tremendous for all of us. We actually got some help with PPP as well. But yeah, locally, they did step up and have helped us out.
Nicole?
From the actual city, because I know we're eligible for the CARES as well, but the city came up with a $4,000 grant initially. That was actually really early on. That helped us, and it was just meant to purchase items to get its safety in reopening.
Excellent. And Mark, anything on Lakeville?
Well,
you're dealing with several cities.
Yeah, well, at the Lakeville location, we just applied they opened up the qualifications. In the first go around, we didn't meet those qualifications, but in this go around, we just applied. I'm assuming we'll probably get it. So, but yeah.
Well, thank you.
Here's another from the chamber, just purchasing gift cards and things like that. So that was great.
Thank you. Here's another question. Can you stay open over the winter with the current rules? What is the expected change that the governor will allow for winter? Is the Minnesota Restaurant Association doing much lobbying on this effort?
I can talk on that. I was actually with the Lakeville mayor last night, and he was saying how they're actually going to be in a call talking about restaurant specific here very soon. And they're talking about how adding plexiglass to booths can, they're trying to go, what they're trying to do, their goal, the mayors are trying to get away from a 50% capacity and go more toward a 6-foot social distancing. So personally for us, I actually have the mayor coming in tomorrow morning. We're going to do a quick walkthrough just of our Lakeville location, just because I told him he was talking about different restaurants that feel like they're going to be able to get up to 70 to 80% of their capacity by being able to add plexiglass and doing the 6-foot social distancing. I told him every restaurant's different. We definitely here at our Lakeville store would not be able to get to that kind of capacity just the way that we're laid out. The 6-foot social distancing doesn't work as well for us here. So I'm just going to have, I want him to be able to look at it from people who are going to thrive in that. But then there's also going to be people that aren't going to do as well with that model. So he has all the information. But yeah, I guess they're talking about plexiglass and things like that are going to work. But that's also an added cost that needs to go into it. We put a plexiglass wall up by our pull tab booth, and me and Jason built it ourselves, and that was still $250. That's not, you're taking out labor. So adding a bunch of plexiglass, that's going to be a huge added cost as well. That's just from our perspective what we see. So
thank you. Here's a compliment actually. 360's communities on this. I want to thank Ryan for serving lunches this summer to the children at a Rosemont Family Resource Center who are in need. What a generous thing to do during these hard times. And I know all of you are doing a great outreach to the community. Here's a question. Do services like DoorDash take a large percentage of the sale versus using restaurants delivery service? So when you bring an attack in the third party, does that take away from the little profit that you're making?
Yeah, it's a 30% is what they take off the top of your order. So yeah, it's quite a hefty price.
Yeah, here at Las Tortillas, we've actually have always kind of had the mantra of not allowing third-party deliveries until we figured we could. Had a lot of bad feedback when it first came around about 2 years ago, and we started blocking calls. And then when customers reached out to us, we just explained the quality of food, the service. I've actually talked to drivers outside of my restaurant, and you kind of hear the wait times. There's a reason for that. They're waiting for multiple restaurants to order. They can see what the tip is before they accept it. And they're prepaid before they even complete their job. Something that we would like to do here at Rosemont and Las Tortillas in Rosemont would be figure out a way to do our own delivery, maybe even a couple mile radius for this winter, but do it ourselves. And that's something that is on the challenge for us for this winter.
Well, thank you. Go ahead, Nicole.
To add on that, when we were closed, we actually did free delivery. We did it ourselves because I didn't want to pay a third party to do it. And then we just shut it. When the restaurant opened back up, then we stopped doing delivery. But it was interesting because people would live like literally 2 houses away. And I'm like, you really don't want to just come up? I mean, okay, we'll bring it, but it was fun though.
Well, thank you. Here's a comment that is talking about most cities of the CARES Act. Most of the cities we're talking about our sizes, we all got about $4 million. And about 10 to 15% went for small business grants. And here's somebody asking a commentary that they think it should go to 50% because all those dollars actually came from businesses originally. With that, what about permanent? You've gone through all these changes and adaptations. What happens when all of this ends, whenever it ends? Are any of these changes going to be kept? Like you go, oh, that's a great idea. Obviously, the cleanliness is improved. That could go into perpetuity. But are there any things like, hey, this really is something I'd like to keep, whether this crisis is here or not?
I'll start with that.
All right.
I definitely, depending on how my outside patio thing works, that's going to stay forever because I think it's going to be really cool. Our to-go, like I said, we literally did no to-go before, and now, I mean, to-go is probably up to 15% depending on the day of our revenue. So that'll stay. And I think those are the 2 biggest things.
Excellent.
For us.
Also, all 3 of you, as successful as you are, you're like a master's class on how to do this. But what can us chambers do? What can us cities do? And what can the public, your customers and general public do that you'd like to see us concentrate on to help the restaurant businesses?
Well, it's not to say that you guys haven't done all in your power to do that already. Case in point, today's meeting, as Jason said at B52s, with you guys show up at our doors, you ask, what can we do? And this isn't the first time you've asked that question. You've been asking that for months. I got phone calls from the Dakota County Regional Chamber back in April. How are you? What do you guys need from us? What can we do? And, my answer to your question is we're just so overwhelmed. We don't even know where we're at, what more to ask for help. You'd kind of have to have a crystal ball on, well, this is what's coming up and solve this problem for me. Us as restaurateurs, by nature, we solve our own problems, and get through our own fight. We're not used to having the resources. Typically, it's restaurants try to outsell each other or take others' customers or out happy hour somebody else. What's really nice about what's happening now is the restaurant community here in the suburbs has changed to more of an uptown, downtown feel where it's more of a community feel. So with that, I think the chambers have done a great job of asking us what we can do. And when I know that, I will call you and make you good on it.
Here's a question along that line. Is the Restaurant Association advocating the governor's office to expand indoor seating to 75% or higher? So the associations you deal with, restaurant and dining, are they pushing for that? Do you want everybody to push for 75, or is there something else we should be doing here?
I want 100%, but sorry. But yeah, no, I mean, I think they're definitely pushing for it. I think the problem is the door isn't always open. So that's why, like, with the mayor coming to our spot tomorrow, he's like, we have an open line to talk to the governor, and this is what we're going to talk about. So sometimes it's not as easy to get a hold of the governor. So
No, we're actually, that's where the chambers come in handy. We are able to get a hold of him collectively. And all the chambers that are on this particular webinar, we regularly send letters, some of them we've published in the newspaper, to the governor, to Deed, and the county commissioners, as well as the city folks in our respective cities.
So I think a big way to advocate, and this is kind of what I've seen, is that I think that we've just been kind of looked at as like a breeding ground for COVID, and it's not the case. And if, just through our experiences that we've dealt with COVID, you kind of learn based on your habits, how the actual transmission can be stopped pretty fast and isolated. And the big thing for us is that I see the CDC comes out and basically starts talking about how they can trace this many amount of people coming to restaurants and bars, and it really fans flames to keep people home. And I think the biggest thing is to really promote that the restaurants are doing a lot to keep everybody safe. And we're daily having these talks about, keeping our customers safe, keeping our staff safe, and to me, I think trying to promote more of, hey, it's not as scary as some of you might think. I don't know. I mean, it's just a thought.
I have stats on that. There's 82,000 cases, this is in Minnesota, 6,700 hospitalizations throughout the whole crisis, 1,869 deaths since this started. Right now in the hospital, there's 263 people in the hospital. Only 2% of cases, according to the Department of Health's own website, had anything to do with any restaurant or bar. Now, I realize with college going back, that may change a little bit, but 2%, yet the restaurants have almost all the regulation, probably more top heavy than almost anyone else, with the exception of obviously hospital and medical. I'd also like to ask you, what about the department? The governor said there's no COVID police out there. Yet over the last 2 weekends, they did 167 visits to Mankato, St. Peter, New Ulm, then all through Scott and Carver County. And then I guess it was last weekend they hit Dakota County. One restaurant, I believe, in Hastings was even hit with a $7,000 fine after 3 hours of looking for things. They find somebody outside serving and the mask was not on properly. Do you feel like you're being picked on as restaurants there? And maybe there are some bad players in certain bars or whatever, but do you feel like you're being picked on a little bit as restaurant owners here with overdoing the compliance? And I understand they're hitting on the busiest times when they should be observing, not necessarily taking up all your time for hours.
I do have to say, from a government level, probably being picked on a little bit. I didn't feel that much or that way about it as much until the Hastings restaurant that you were mentioning got this huge fine. And I know the owner, and friends of mine work there, and really unfair. I mean, I guess I went into this, and Governor Walz would say, even in his speeches, we're here to educate And I understand that. I guess, you know, yeah, come see what we're doing. I'd actually love for you to tell me if we're doing something wrong or a way we can do something better. That makes sense to me. Just like the Department of Health comes in and our gal's great. She just says, you know, you could do this, but you're doing a good job on this. Come and teach us. But when you get fines like that and you're a business already operating at 50%, that's really kicking you when you're already down, I think. So yeah, not a big fan of that. I do feel like we are definitely getting the brunt of over-regulation.
Well, thank you.
June, July, and August,
Mhm.
we did a 3-month look back, and just in our Lakeville store alone, we're down $740,000 in sales. And that's just Lakeville. So as a company, we're down over $2 million. And that was just the closing of the last 3 months. So when people say, you know, you guys are finding success and things like that, I mean, there's a barometer for actually measuring that, you know, which is pretty challenging to really take in and comprehend. You know, we might be filling up our 50% capacity, but nobody's opened up a business thinking, hey, I only want to sell half of what I can. You know?
Wow, that's quite an impact. All of our listeners out there, please go to these restaurants and all of the restaurants. They need your help more now than ever. We have another person from a city, one of the city councils. It says, chamber compliment. All chambers have been bold in leading the way in advocacy on behalf of businesses and opening up communication lines and offering numerous sessions to stay connected. As a 20-year chamber member, I've never been so proud of the work you have done. Keep it up. Love you all. So that's a nice way to end this call. I might mention that early on, the chambers of commerce that are participating in this webinar, we were all collectively fighting hard for who was an essential worker and who's not. When nobody ever heard of PPP or the SBA loans or the confusion over those, or the EIDL loans, then the county loans, then the city loans, we all fought for the use of your property to use as you will. And we all, to our surprise, the cities all cooperated with us on that, and they're to be complimented for that. We got all the cities to relax all their signage early on, or let you do a drive up however you need to. We distributed several 100,000 masks. All these webinars, e-blasts, deed, letters to everyone, pushing when the governor on June 1st, I think Nicole mentioned it, that we were going to open on June 1st, and all of a sudden they just said patio only, and everybody expected that. The chambers, from the Minnesota chamber all the way down to all of us chambers, fought hard, and within about 13 days, they allowed 50% capacity and started opening up a little bit. So we're really fighting for all of you. Again, everyone watching this, please go to lunch today. Take your family out to dinner. It really matters. We have to keep these people going strong. And the numbers that Mark just mentioned are staggering. And thank you for sharing those. With that, I'd like to thank you for being part of this webinar. And again, our three people is Nicole Sindelar, owner Hastings Golf Club, Ryan McGonigal, owner of Las Tortillas in Rosemont, and also Mark Reese, and also as general manager, Jason, for joining us, of both B52's Burgers and Brew. And this webinar is part of our real-time solutions brought to you by Apple Valley Chamber, Burnsville Chamber, Hastings Chamber, Lakeville Chamber, and River Heights Chamber of Commerce. We intend the series to be indefinitely brought to you each week. So if you want more information on a particular topic, please let your respective chamber know, and we'll reach out to our local experts, just as we have with the restaurants today, and we will bring that webinar to you. All of you, thank you. Again, this is being recorded, and you can find it on the websites and other media from the respective chambers. I give a big applause to all of you, and keep it up. And we're all in this together. And that means we actually have to go and dine with you regularly. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.